Hi, this is Jason, Chief Technical Analyst with ToroAlerts, and today we're going to do a sector review on the healthcare sector, ticker XLV, taking a look at the performance over the last year, and we'll zoom out a few years further and just take a look at some of the longer-term trend performance for the healthcare sector and see what we're looking at going into 2023 as well. So as we're taking a look at these charts here, we can see on the top end we've just got the XLV chart pulled up here, and then on the bottom panel we've got the XLV chart but divided by the S&P 500, so this is giving us the relative strength of the healthcare sector compared to the broader markets in the S&P 500. So we can see that going into 2022 we had a pretty choppy sideways price action year in healthcare. Definitely some peaks and valleys, but ultimately a pretty tight trade range. We never got up about 143 on the XLV, and at our lowest point we got down to about 120 or so. And other than that, just a lot of sideways price action for the year. We ultimately closed the year out just about where we opened it, maybe just slightly lower. And so just not a lot of exciting price action in the healthcare sector for 2022. However, we did see some consistent selling in the broader markets, and so to see healthcare hold up like that, it obviously outperformed relative to the S&P 500 because the S&P sold off about 20% and healthcare was essentially close to flat. So on that bottom chart we can see the relative performance for 2023 as it moved up and to the right pretty aggressively because the markets were selling off and it was ultimately holding fairly flat most of the year. But we can also see on this relative chart at the bottom that a couple of times, about 3 or 4 different times now, over the last 6 or 7 years, we've gotten up to about this 0.35 ratio on the relative strength chart, and then ultimately each time we've reached that level, we've tended to head lower from there. And we can see that we hit that level right before the COVID crash and ultimately saw healthcare head lower from there as well on a relative basis, as well as seeing it sell off in real terms. So I think there's definitely some reasons to be a bit cautious in the healthcare space. Some people might be looking to position healthcare stocks as a defensive posturing for 2023, and especially after 2022, some people might think it'll be a safe place to stay, but I think there's a pretty strong chance that we'll actually see a pretty deep sell-off in healthcare. This looks like this could be a potential topping pattern playing out here. And if we do see the markets head down below about that 125 level and see it break that, then I would probably be looking for it to head lower and retest at least that 200-week moving average, which is currently at about 115 or so, potentially even lower than that. We saw during the COVID crash we had multiple weeks of price action below that 200-week moving average in healthcare. So while healthcare, I think in some years like last year can be a bit of a safety net in tough markets, I do not think that will necessarily play out in 2023 as well. So I'd be cautious with the healthcare sector, as I think there really won't be too many safe places to hide when we see the markets sell off. It's possible maybe some bonds, or maybe that the dollar continues to rally, but I don't think there's going to be really any sector that's spared in 2023 when we likely see some deeper sell-offs in the market. And let's go ahead and finish things off with a little bit of seasonality information on the XLV as well. We can see that there is a short-term trend of some upside in the seasonality report for healthcare, but it's really only the first 11 days of the year, and then we tend to see seasonality weakness going into the end of the first quarter. And then we actually do see some seasonality positivity for the healthcare sector really in the second and third quarter, but I would be very cautious with that, as I think there's a good chance that somewhere in the second quarter, if not sooner, and definitely by the third quarter, I would say, if it doesn't happen before that, that we'll likely see another market downturn and a lower low put it on the S&P 500, and potentially quite a significant lower low. And if that happens, I think healthcare won't be spared, and it'll certainly have a pretty significant drawdown as well. The area that really interests me the most on the seasonality report would be the fourth quarter. I think there's a good chance that the sell-off hopefully will be done in the markets going into the fourth quarter, if not sooner, in 2023. And if we do get that set up, then we can see that there's a really strong seasonality trend for healthcare in that fourth quarter. So if we can get a market bottom before the fourth quarter, I think that sets us up really nicely going into 2023 in the fourth quarter and beyond to 2024 for a good trade set up in healthcare, and as well as the biotech space as a subsector that I really like in healthcare. So thanks for tuning in, and make sure to download the ToroAlerts app on the App Store. We've got one for stocks and one for crypto, and you can check us out at ToroAlerts.com.